All right, I gotta say, you guys really know how to get our attention.
Yeah,
Our inboxes and our socials have been blowing up.
totally.
Everyone wants to know about this Kuiper deal at Audio Plugin Deals.
Well, it makes sense. This is a plugin that a lot of people have had their eyes on for a while.
Yeah,
And audio plugin deals, they're known for offering some crazy discounts.
you really are. And I think this one might actually take the cake.
It might. This might be the lowest price we've ever seen for Kuiper.
Anywhere online.
Anywhere online.
And to make it even sweeter, or maybe even more stressful,
Oh.
it's a limited time offer.
Yeah, so you got to act fast.
So let's break down exactly what we're dealing with here.
Okay.
What is Kuiper?
Kuiper is a granular delay plugin.
Granular delay.
Granular delay.
Honestly, when I first heard that, I thought of like some kind of weird breakfast cereal.
I could see that.
Not the most intuitive name, right?
No, not really.
But the sound.
The sound is anything but ordinary.
Okay, tell me more.
So imagine taking any sound. It could be a vocal, a synth, anything.
Okay.
And you slice it up into these tiny little pieces.
Tiny pieces.
And those pieces are called grains.
Grains. Okay.
And what Kuiper does is it lets you manipulate these grains.
To manipulate them how?
You can change their pitch, you can stretch them in time, even play them backwards.
Backwards. Whoa.
And by doing all of this, you can create these incredibly rich, evolving soundscapes that you just wouldn't be able to get with a regular delay.
Okay, so I'm starting to see why people are so hyped about this.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of delay plugins out there.
There are.
What makes Kuiper different? What makes it stand out?
I think one of the big things is the level of control that you get.
Okay.
So for example, it has 5 independent grain pitch channels.
5.
5?
So each of these channels has its own what?
Each channel, you can adjust the pitch, you can adjust the volume, you can even turn them on or off independently.
So you could have like one channel playing grains an octave higher,
You-
another one an octave lower, and then another one at the original pitch, and they're all happening at the same time.
Exactly, and that's just scratching the surface.
Wow.
There's a lot more you can do.
Like what?
You can control the number of grains that are being generated.
Okay.
Anywhere from 5 to 100.
Wow, 100.
You can adjust the length of each grain.
grain length.
So you can have very short grains for a really grainy, textured sound.
Okay.
Or you can make them longer for a smoother, more drawn out kind of effect.
So it's like almost like adjusting the brush size in a painting app.
That's a great analogy.
You know, small brush for details, big brush for broad strokes.
Exactly.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. And then there's this whole thing about playback direction.
Ah,
Forward, backward, or even a mix of both.
you can do all of that.
I can't even imagine what that sounds like.
It's kind of wild.
Tell me more.
So think about you take a sound and you play it in reverse.
Uh-huh.
But then you break it up into those tiny little pieces and then you weave them back together in all sorts of unpredictable ways. It can create this really ethereal, otherworldly kind of sound.
So we've got these 5 independent channels. We can play things forwards, backwards, mix it up.
Yeah.
There's got to be even more to this.
Yo, there's more.
What else is there?
So you also have control over the maximum delay time.
Okay.
So that's how far back in time those grains are pulled from.
What?
You have feedback,
Feedback. Okay.
which feeds the delayed signal back into itself. And that's how you create those evolving textures that kind of build and swell over time.
So we can create these huge swirling soundscapes that just kind of morph and change over time.
Exactly.
This is crazy. I can see why sound designers would be going nuts for this.
Oh, absolutely. And there's even more.
Okay, hit me.
You have stereo width control.
Okay.
So you can control how wide the sound spreads across your speakers.
Okay.
And it even has a built-in reverb
River.
to add some depth and space.
So this thing is like a sonic Swiss Army knife.
It really is.
It seems like you could get any sound you could possibly imagine out of this thing.
It's pretty versatile.
It really pushes the boundaries of what's possible with delay, right?
Absolutely.
So I think we've established that this thing is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I think it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, or I guess the price tag on the plugin.
Okay, let's talk about it.
How much does this thing normally cost?
Normally, Kuiper would set you back $84.
$84, which honestly, for a plugin that can do all of this, that's not bad.
It's not a bad price.
But we're talking about audio plugin deals here.
We are.
What kind of deal are we looking at?
This is where it gets good.
Uh-oh.
Right now, you can pick up Kuiper for just $41.99.
No way. That's less than half price.
It is.
That's insane.
It's a steal.
It is a steal. That's crazy.
And they're even throwing in some presets to get you started.
Okay, you've sold me.
All right.
But I have a feeling there's even more to uncover with this sonic beast.
There is. There's a lot more to talk about.
Before we get into those details, though, I think it's worth taking a step back and appreciating just how unique this approach to sound design really is.
It is unique.
Because this isn't just about manipulating sound, right?
It's not.
This is about manipulating time itself?
It really is.
No.
Time manipulation with audio.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah. Yeah, like sonic time travel.
It really is.
But with Kuiper, you're not just a passenger.
Oh.
You're the pilot.
Ooh, like that.
And you can grab these little fragments of sound, those grains, scatter them across time, forwards, backwards, wherever you want to go.
Okay, now that is cool.
Yeah.
So we've talked about all these incredible features.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what it's actually like to use.
Yeah.
Is it user-friendly?
It is.
Or are we going to need like a degree in quantum physics to figure this thing out?
Luckily, no physics degree are required.
Okay, good.
I think one of the things that makes Kuiper really remarkable is that it's actually very intuitive to use.
Okay.
The layout is very logical.
Okay.
And there's this really beautiful visualization of each grain as it appears in the delay output.
Wait, so you can actually see the grains?
You can see the grains.
Whoa.
Each tiny fragment of sound is represented visually.
Wow.
So you can actually watch as they're being manipulated and played back.
So it's not just a visual gimmick.
Well,
it actually helps you understand what's happening.
It really helps you understand what's happening to the sound.
So it's like having X-ray vision.
Yes.
Into the world of sound design.
Exactly. It gives you this amazing insight into the relationship between the controls and the sound that you're hearing.
I love that.
Yeah, you can actually see how adjusting the grain length or the number of grains or the playback direction, how all of that affects those little grains.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of grain number,
Yeah.
we talked earlier about having up to 100 grains. I'm picturing this massive swarm of sonic particles.
It's a lot of grains.
But what does that actually sound like?
So it's all about density and texture. So the more grains you have playing at the same time, the thicker and more complex the sound becomes.
Okay.
It's almost like layering multiple instruments or voices,
Right.
each playing a slightly different variation of the original sound.
So the more grains, the richer the sound.
Exactly. It's like adding more threads to a tapestry,
I like that.
creating a richer, more intricate pattern.
Okay.
And with Kuiper, you have complete control over how many grains you're using.
Right.
So you can really dial in the perfect amount of density
That's great.
for whatever sound you're going for.
Okay, I'm definitely getting a sense of just how powerful and flexible this is.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to playback direction for a second.
Okay.
I'm still kind of struggling to wrap my head around what forward, backward, or mixed playback actually sounds like.
Yeah, it's a little hard to visualize.
It is.
So think about it this way.
Okay.
Imagine you're playing a single note on a piano.
Okay.
So with forward playback, you'd hear that note repeated in those tiny granular fragments.
Okay, like a normal delay?
Like a normal delay, but with backward playback,
Yeah.
those fragments would be reversed.
Reversed, okay.
And so it would create this kind of haunting, ethereal echo
Oh, wow.
that seems to almost emerge from silence.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's like the sound is unfolding in reverse, revealing itself over time.
I love that.
And then with the mixed playback option, things get really interesting.
Even more interesting.
Even more interesting.
How so?
So Kuiper will randomly choose between forward and backward playback for each grain.
Wow.
So you get this really unpredictable shimmering texture that's constantly shifting and evolving.
So it's like these grains are bouncing back and forth through time.
Yeah.
Creating this surreal sonic tapestry.
That's a great way to put it.
I like that a lot.
And to make things even easier, Kuiper comes with a built-in preset system.
Presets. I love presets.
Presets are great.
Especially for beginners who might be a little intimidated by all of these options.
Exactly. It's like having a library of starting points, a collection of sonic sketches that you can then build upon and customize to your heart's content.
So even if I just like accidentally stumble upon some incredible sound, I can save it.
You can save it.
Okay, good.
And the best part is you can also save your own creations as presets.
That's awesome.
So any unique sounds that you create, you can save those and recall them instantly.
No happy accidents will be lost.
No happy accidents with Kuiper.
I love that.
So speaking of versatility, Kuiper is available in audio unit, VST3, and standalone formats.
Now, I know that's important.
It's important.
But can you break that down for those of us who aren't fluent in plugin jargon?
Sure. So essentially it means that Kuiper is designed to work with a variety of music production workflows.
Okay.
So whether you're using a Mac or a PC, whether you prefer to work inside a DAW,
A DAD, and that's...
a digital audio workstation,
Okay.
or if you want to use it as a standalone application, Kuiper has you covered.
So no matter what your setup is...
No matter what your setup is.
You can probably find a way to integrate it.
Yes.
Okay.
And while we're talking about DAWs,
Yeah.
it's worth noting that Kuiper has been tested with a wide range of popular software.
Okay, like what?
So it's been tested with Ableton Live, Logic Pro, Cubase,
Okay, the big ones?
Bitwig Studio, FL Studio, and Studio One.
So chances are if you're using one of those, you're good to go.
Most likely.
What about other DAWs, though?
While those are the ones that are explicitly listed as tested,
Right.
it's highly likely that Kuiper will work with other DAWs that support AU or VST3 plugins.
Okay.
Of course, it's always a good idea to check the developer's website for the most up-to-date compatibility information.
Always good advice.
Yeah, just to be safe.
You mentioned that Kuiper can be used in standalone mode.
Yes.
Does that mean you can use it without even opening your DAD?
That's right. You can fire it up as a separate application, independent of any DW.
So if I'm feeling inspired and I just want to experiment with sounds, I don't have to load up my whole production setup.
You don't.
I can just go straight into Kuiper.
You can.
That's awesome.
It's great for just playing around and exploring sound without any constraints.
That's amazing.
You can route audio from other sources into Kuiper, process it with all that granular delay magic, and then record the output.
So it's like having a dedicated sound design lab right on your computer.
Exactly.
We love that.
And there's one more thing I want to mention that I think you'll find interesting.
Okay, hit me.
The documentation mentions something called Glover.
Glover,
which seems to be a separate software that can be used to control Kuiper with movement.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Control with movement.
Like movement.
So we're talking like hand gestures and stuff.
It seems like it...
Whoa.
The details are a little sparse in the sources we have,
Right.
but it definitely sounds intriguing.
It does.
Imagine being able to shape those granular delays in real time just by moving your hands.
That's crazy.
It's like conducting an orchestra of sound.
Okay, now that is next level.
It's pretty cool.
So we've got these 5 independent grain channels.
We do.
Forward and backward playback, a visual representation of the grains.
Yes.
Presets, standalone mode, and potentially even motion control.
Potentially.
This thing is packed.
It is.
And for $41.99.
That's a steal.
That's practically highway robbery.
It's an incredible value, especially for a plugin with this level of depth and versatility.
Yeah.
So if you're at all interested in exploring the world of granular delay, this is definitely a deal worth checking out.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But before we wrap things up, I have one last question that's been bugging me.
Okay.
The sources mentioned that the name Kuiper is inspired by the Kuiper Belt.
Yes.
Which is a region of icy objects beyond Neptune.
That's right.
What's the connection there?
That is a good question.
Why would you name a granular delay plugin after a celestial body?
It is a clever choice when you think about it. Because the Kuiper Belt is this vast, mysterious region filled with countless icy bodies. Each one is unique, and each one is orbiting in its own way.
Okay.
Kind of like those grains of sound in Kuiper.
Oh, yeah.
Each one a tiny fragment of something bigger.
I see it now.
All coming together to create something beautiful and complex.
I love that analogy.
It's a good one.
It's like each grain is a little icy world orbiting within this vast sonic landscape.
Exactly. And just like those icy bodies in the Kuiper Belt, each grain has the potential to be shaped and molded into something truly unique and wondrous.
Okay, that officially wins the award for best space analogy ever.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've learned a lot about what Kuiper is.
We have.
Why it's so special, especially at this price.
Yes.
But how do we actually make this thing sing?
Yeah, how do we use it?
How do we use those controls to create the sounds that we're hearing in our heads?
Let's get into it.
Let's dive into those nitty-gritty details after a quick break. All right, we're back and ready to really unlock the secrets of this Kuiper control panel.
Let's do it.
We've got those 5 independent grain channels.
Yep.
We know each one has its own pitch, volume, on-off switch.
Right.
But how do we actually use those to sculpt the sound?
So think of them like 5 separate delay lines that are all working together.
Okay.
So imagine we have a melody playing through Kuiper.
Okay.
By default, the middle channel is set to 0 transposition,
Yeah,
meaning the grains are played back at the original pitch.
Right.
The two channels above it are pitched up an octave and 2 octaves.
Okay.
And then the two channels below are pitched down an octave and 2 octaves.
So right from the start, you've got this really beautiful layered sound with different pitches all harmonizing with each other.
Exactly. And it gets even more interesting when you start tweaking those pitches further.
Okay, how so?
So let's say you want to create a slightly unsettling dissonant effect. Instead of using those clean octaves, you could shift the channels to more unusual intervals.
Okay.
Maybe a minor second up, a major seventh down, creating a more unpredictable 8-tonal texture.
Oh, okay. I'm starting to hear it.
Yeah.
And what about those volume controls? How do those come into play?
So those are your gain controls.
Okay.
And they let you balance the volume of each channel.
Okay.
So you could have one channel that's subtly whispering in the background,
Uh-huh.
while another one blasts out at full volume,
Okay.
creating a really dynamic shifting soundscape.
It's like having a mini mixing board just for your delays.
Exactly.
You can shape the sound in so many different ways.
You can.
And of course, we have the on-off switches.
Yes.
What are those for?
So sometimes less is more.
Okay.
The on-off switches let you mute individual channels,
Okay.
which is great for simplifying a sound if it's getting too dense,
Uh-huh.
or even creating rhythmic variations by turning channels on and off in a pattern.
So it's like having these 5 sonic paintbrushes.
Yeah.
And you can blend them together in endless combinations.
That's a great way to put it.
I like that.
And those are just the grain channels.
Oh, boy.
We still have grain number,
Uh-huh.
grain length, max delay time, feedback, stereo width, and reverb to explore.
Okay, I know it can seem like a lot,
It's a lot.
but let's take it one step at a time.
Okay.
How about grain number?
Grain number.
We've talked about it in terms of density,
Yeah.
but how do you actually know how many grains to use?
It really depends on the effect that you're aiming for.
Okay.
If you want a subtle shimmer
Okay.
or a gentle chorus-like effect,
Uh-huh.
a smaller number of grains might be all you need.
Okay.
But if you're going for that dense, swirling texture,
Yeah.
crank that number up to 100
Yeah.
and let those sonic particles fly.
It's like turning up the resolution on your sound,
Yeah.
adding more detail, more
That's
complexity.
exactly.
What about grain length?
Grain length?
How does adjusting that change the sound?
So remember that painting analogy from earlier? Short grain lengths are like using a fine-tipped brush.
Okay.
They create a really detailed, textured sound, almost like a granular effect in itself.
Interesting.
Longer grain lengths are like using a broad brush,
Okay.
creating smoother, dreamier textures.
So if I wanted a glitchy staccato effect,
Yes.
short grains would be the way to go.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you want that smooth, ethereal soundscape,
Yeah,
long grains are going to be your best friend.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, on to max delay time.
Max delay time.
What exactly are we controlling here?
Think of it as the length of your delay line.
Okay.
So max delay time controls how far back in time Kuiper is reaching to grab those sound grains.
Okay.
So if you want a really long, drawn-out delay,
Yeah,
crank up that max delay time.
got it.
But if you want something tighter, more rhythmic, keep it short and snappy.
So it's like a time machine for your sound.
It is.
You're literally controlling how far back in time those sonic fragments travel.
That's a great way to put it.
I like that.
And then we have feedback,
Feedback.
which is where things can get really wild.
Uh-oh.
So remember, feedback is feeding the delayed signal back into itself,
Right.
creating a loop.
Yep.
And that's how you get those really incredible, evolving soundscapes that build and swell over time.
So the higher the feedback,
The more intense that buildup becomes.
okay, but be careful.
You careful, yeah.
Too much feedback,
Too much feedback.
and we've got a runaway train.
You could have a runaway feedback loop.
My speakers are going to melt.
Yeah, your speakers might not be happy.
All right, so it's always better to start slow
Okay.
and gradually build up that intensity.
Yes, always good advice.
Okay, let's move on to the more spatial aspects of Kuiper.
Okay.
Stereo width and reverb.
All right.
Starting with stereo width, how does that shape the sound?
So stereo width is all about space.
Okay.
It controls how wide your sound spreads across the stereo field.
Okay.
A narrow width will create a very focused, centered sound,
Uh-huh.
perfect for keeping things tight and punchy. Okay.
But if you want to create that really wide, immersive soundscape that wraps around the listener, crank up that stereo width.
It's like taking a sound and stretching it across the horizon,
Exactly.
making it feel huge and expansive.
It can be really powerful.
Yeah.
And finally, we have reverb.
Reverb.
Reverb adds a sense of space and depth,
Okay.
makes your sound richer, more three-dimensional.
Three-dimensional, okay.
It's like placing your sound in a virtual concert hall
Okay.
or a cavernous cathedral.
So if you want to create that really ethereal, otherworldly sound.
Yeah.
Lots of reverb is the way to go.
Lots of reverb.
Okay.
If you prefer a more intimate, dry sound,
Huh.
dial it back.
So again, it's all about finding that balance
It is.
for your sonic vision.
That's what it's all about.
Okay, so we've got grain channels, grain number, grain length,
We've got it all.
max delay time, feedback, stereo width, reverb.
Yep.
Kuiper is a sonic powerhouse.
It really is, and it's incredibly intuitive and fun to use. Good. Because we don't want to be pulling our hair out trying to figure this thing out.
No, it should be enjoyable.
Exactly.
Even if you're new to granular delay, you can jump right in and start experimenting.
Yeah.
There's a whole world of sonic possibilities waiting to be discovered.
And at that amazing price from audio plug-in deals, you really can't go wrong.
It's an opportunity you don't want to miss.
I agree.
You get a plugin that can do all of this.
Yeah,
It's practically being given away.
it is.
This is your chance to unlock a whole new dimension of sonic creativity.
So what does this all mean for you, dear listener?
Yeah, what does it mean?
If you've ever been curious about granular delay,
Even a little bit.
or just want to add a unique tool to your sonic arsenal,
Definitely.
Kuiper is worth serious consideration.
Absolutely.
And with this deal,
Oh, yeah.
there's really no reason not to give it a try.
I agree.
Here's one final thought to leave you with.
Okay.
We've talked about all the incredible things that Kuiper can do on its own, but imagine combining it with other effects in your DAW.
Ooh. Yeah.
Think about blending those ethereal granular textures with the rhythmic pulsations of a tremolo
Okay.
or the swirling depths of a phaser.
Whoa.
The possibilities are truly endless.
They are. They really are.
Okay, I am officially inspired.
All right.
Time to fire up Kuiper and start experimenting.
Go for it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of granular delay.
It's been fun.
We'll catch you next time.